I'm Area Commander Bruce Farquharson. I look after the service delivery for Aberdeen City, Aberdeenshire and Moray, but I also have the national responsibility for wildfire across all of Scotland, and as part of that responsibility I chair the Scottish Wildfire Forum. Muirburn's a really important aspect for land management in my view. The ability to manage the fuel and create a mosaic pattern across the countryside of different types of burn, so fuel in different conditions from freshly burned to regenerating to needing burned, allows us the opportunity when we do get wildfires to have that broken fuel continuation. So the fire shouldn't spread as quickly or as far, and it gives us areas where we know we are safe from the fire that we can mount our operations from. So Muirburn's a really effective way of controlling the fuel or vegetation that is on the hillside, but also for allowing us opportunities to fight fires when they do happen. The assistance we receive from gamekeepers at large wildfires is absolutely invaluable. They bring a level of expertise as to the land that we're having the fire on. They understand how, if they're Muirburn experts, how fire will behave in that landscape and in that vegetation. They can take us further into the countryside with the vehicles that they have, and they very often have firefighting equipment and firefighting knowledge that we can use at the incident. I would say that the wildfire assistance we get from gamekeepers and other land managers is absolutely essential and critical to the effort we can mount to fight the fire. Gamekeepers have a great number of skills that we can use at a wildfire. The skills they use for Muirburn are really transferable across into the wildfire scenario. So they've got good understanding of backburning, of controlling a fire flank, of extinguishing the fire using fogging equipment, beaters, leaf blowers. They've got a really high understanding and a lot of experience in working with fire in the landscape. So when we come to a wildfire, that knowledge and expertise and equipment can be used really effectively by us. So we're doing an awful lot of work in partnership with gamekeepers, estates, foresters to do a lot of wildfire prevention. That includes bringing good information to the public in a consistent manner, raising awareness amongst land managers who perhaps don't have the same level of expertise as gamekeepers have, but also trying to influence national policy in relation to plantations and fire assessments, not just for the now, but for the 30-40 years in the future when plantations are fully grown. We're also developing a training package to assist people in the practice of Muirburn to bring a higher level of expertise and safety into that practice. And we're working closely with Nature Scot, Scottish Gamekeepers Association, and obviously the Scottish Fire and Rescue Service to do that piece of work. So the fuel loading in Scotland is increasing. We have a number of strategies that are competing and perhaps having unintended consequences. So for example, rewilding, which is a strategy being used to manage the landscape, and is an effective strategy but can have the potential to have large fuel loadings in key areas. And where we see large fuel loadings that have no interruptions, when a fire does take hold, it will move through it very quickly, and the fire behaviour will be extreme and the intensity will be high when it's got a high fuel loading. So that Muirburn or fuel management to reduce the fuel loading is really important. We are seeing an impact of climate change. The fire behaviour that we're experiencing when we get wildfires is of a higher intensity than we've seen before, and all of this is coming together to give us some concern. Muirburn's a really effective way of managing the fuel and of controlling any subsequent fire behaviour and intensity. So when the heather has been burnt back, if a fire does come through, it's likely to burn with less intensity because there's less fuel to burn, so the fire will not have the opportunity to penetrate into the soil depths, and it's the peat that's the real key to carbon capture. If the peat becomes involved in the fire, and in a wildfire it's more likely to, then it will release massive amounts of carbon into the atmosphere. So we really need to have small, controlled, cooler fires to prevent large, uncontrolled, hotter fires that have the potential to release huge quantities of carbon. So to help us prepare for wildfires in the future, there's some really important things that we can do in conjunction with gamekeepers and land managers. We really want to work closely with them to understand how our skills can complement each other, what equipment each other has, and how managing the landscape by putting in roadways, access to water supplies, hard standing could assist us with a wildfire. And one of the easiest things we can do is to have a good fire plan available on every estate that shows key locations on the ground, roadways, fence lines, power cables, in fact any asset of value that the gamekeeper and farmer wants us to know about. Joint training is a key part of this as well, and we're really working hard to get to the point where our firefighters can come and either observe or assist with Muirburn activity. And that joint training will help us to understand what the gamekeepers can do and help the gamekeepers to understand what it is we're wanting to do at a wildfire. But it also builds a really good close relationship between the two parties so that when we do have a fire, it's a far easier thing to get on and just work together. And the ultimate aim would be that if when we do have a wildfire we can respond together, not just alongside each other but as co-teams, and have gamekeepers, firefighters working hand in hand, dealing with the same fire, with the same understanding of the objective to be reached, and the same techniques being used by both. So we really want to strengthen that relationship with the gamekeepers, to get good information sharing by the way of fire plans, to get good joint training so that our prevention messaging and our response can be far better than it is at the moment. If Muirburn was restricted or banned, then in my view there would be a huge impact on wildfire prevention. It's really important to understand the land you're burning on, so yes, some sort of precautionary measures need to be taken around about burning over peat, but there are measures in place already, so it's just about enforcing them and making sure that the people that practice Muirburn understand the soil types that they're burning on and they have a fire that's appropriate to that soil type, or indeed another form of fuel mitigation. So there's a misconception that Muirburn is the cause of most of the wildfires we have, when actually the opposite is true. It'd be wrong to say that Muirburn doesn't cause wildfire on occasion, but it is the exception rather than the norm. And in fact, Muirburn prevents a lot of wildfires from happening. The bulk of the wildfires we see happening are generally because of the public either having a lack of awareness or behaving in a way where their unintended consequences have a massive impact. So we really seek to bring information to the public so that they understand the risk that exists in the countryside, they understand how their behaviour can have a massive impact on that countryside, and to help them to leave the countryside in the way they found it, in a beautiful, beautiful state. So Muirburn is absolutely an essential part to preventing wildfire and is not the main cause of wildfires in Scotland.